Yeah?
Hey Rob, nice Metroid video.
Yeah, thanks, but I'm kinda in the middle of something.
Did you buy another copy of Other M?
No.
Okay then. Well, I was just wondering if you wanted to make a new video about the Metroid Prime trilogy with me.
Go on.
The Metroid Prime trilogy is a triumph. All three games weave immersive atmospheres of isolation, danger, and excitement. And one of the most powerful ways that the Prime trilogy accomplishes this atmosphere is by weaving together worlds made up of incredible places to explore. These levels are our window into the Prime trilogy's universe, featuring mechanics that interest us, puzzles that challenge us, environments that captivate us, and enemies that scare us to death. Holy crap, I'm friggin' dragon!
But what are the best areas to explore? What locations in the Prime trilogy are the best examples of what makes the world design in these games so special? Let's find out.
It's
so we
the
go at like
top
the same time.
10
or like,
Metroid
we're
Prime
just starting top
trilogy
5 Metroid trilogy levels.
The Temple Grounds is the first major area of Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. It sets up the main plot, has some solid atmosphere to start off the game, and serves as the hub to which all of Prime 2's other areas are connected. You frequently return to the Temple Grounds, either to visit Umos the Luminoth, or to make your way from one level to another. Like many of the Prime Trilogy's areas, the Temple Grounds is made up of several smaller zones, each of which has its own unique identity. The Splinter Hive, the Great Temple of the Luminoth, and the actual Temple Grounds themselves are all a part of this opening area.
You know, there's actually a part of the Temple Grounds which scared me to death as a kid. Yes, really. It wasn't the depressing cutscenes, it wasn't the ing, it wasn't even that rock. It was the splinters. You know, some of the first enemies in the game which you kill with one charge shot. How did they scare me? I honestly, I really don't know. I didn't really play many scary games as a kid, and for good reason. Really good reason. Agon Wastes. Oh my, the amount of time I spent in the Agon Wastes as a kid is kind of embarrassing. Why, you ask? Let's not dwell on it.
The Agon Wastes are a broken, forgotten, almost abandoned wasteland. It's a dramatic change from the last level, the Temple Grounds, both visually and atmospherically. Many areas in the Prime trilogy have strong, iconic theme songs with memorable melodies and rhythms. But with Agon Wastes, it's different. As soon as you enter the wasteland, one of the first things you'll notice is the music. Or the lack of it, to be more specific.
The theme of Agon Wastes reflects its barren environment quite nicely. There's a wonderful contrast between the sparse, ambient tone of Agon's theme and the grooving tenseness of the Temple Grounds theme.
Agon Wastes feels silent, almost too silent in a way. It feels like everywhere you step, something is waiting to attack you.
It feels like it's just you, the player, alone in this environment. Who thought I'd be reading so deep into a sandpit with Svalls? Right, Josiah? Josiah? Agon Wastes is also the location which sets up some of the main enemies in Prime 2, the Space Pirates and Dark Samus. The scene where Samus encounters Dark Samus is actually my favorite cutscene in the game. It's a scene with so much subtlety and body language. How the two stare at each other. The way Samus clenches her fist. Certainly better than a drawn-out scene with overused monologue. It sets up her character extremely well. She's definitely got a personality, and there's a lot more to her than just the word dark in front of Samus's name.
Elysia is one of the most memorable areas in Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. It's a vast, ancient, floating city of giant platforms interconnected by zip lines and precarious bridges. Elysia easily stands out from most of the other areas in Corruption, both visually and mechanically. Say what you will about Brio and the Pirate Homeworld, but Elysia just feels so unique as a setting. There's nothing else quite like it in the entire trilogy.
The way you travel in Elysia is just as unique. From morphball launches to grappling lines to flying foxes.
Flying foxes?
It's a New Zealand thing.
You crazy Australian.
Australia? New Zealand? Australia? New Zealand? You get it? You ignorant American piece of...
Elysia also has a strong steampunk vibe from all the steam and the punk. I'm sorry. I'm a real trickster.
There really is a lot to this area. The robots are worn, rusty and falling apart. The environments are dripping with lore. You can even see the Chozo symbol throughout the city, reminiscent of the Artifact Temple in the original Metroid Prime. It's a good thing you spend a fair portion of the game here, because in my opinion, Elysia has the most to offer out of all the areas in Metroid Prime 3. Suck it, Brio.
There's even a part of Elysia that scared me to death as a kid, when you come across the crumbling corpses of the victims of Metroids that escaped. No joke, this part of the game freaked me out.
Oh, Talon Overworld. Talon Overworld, in my opinion, is probably one of the best first levels in a Metroid game. Well, I mean, technically the Frigate Orpheon was the first level of Prime 1, but of the proper levels, you get what I mean.
Now, mechanically, Talon Overworld doesn't have all that much to offer. I mean, sure, there's some cool rooms to explore, and the environment is fun to traverse in traditional Metroid fashion, but that's not what got Talon Overworld into this spot. No, that was the atmosphere. Talon Overworld is a perfect introduction to the planet Talon 4. You've just landed on this mysterious alien planet. You've lost all your gear, again, and you're left to explore this beautiful, desolate landscape alone.
We're also including the Sunken Frigate as part of Talon Overworld. I mean, there's no lift to it or any form of separation. The remains of the frigate have just been absorbed into the landscape. It's a beautiful underwater version of the space frigate you explored at the start of the game. It's a really gorgeous place to explore, and you know, I've never heard a bit of soundtrack sum up what we've just said more strongly than the main theme of Talon Overworld. It's just, gorgeous. Tasty. Delicious. Sorry. Got a little carried away. It fills you with a powerful drive to explore, to discover. It inspires you to delve into what this unknown planet has to offer. And that's not to mention the way Talon Overworld introduces you to Prime's lovely environmental effects, like the raindrops that pitter-patter on your visor when you look up, or how the water runs off your helmet when you come out from underwater. It may be simple, but there's a lot to appreciate.
Chozo Ruins is super fun to explore. It's our first stop after Talon Overworld, and it's quite a different experience, similar to how the Temple Grounds and Aegon Wastes contrasted strongly from each other. It's an ancient sandy ruin of a lost civilization of the Chozo. When you first enter the Chozo Ruins, they feel quiet, undisturbed, somewhat like Aegon Wastes. But honestly, Aegon Wastes got a little bit bland after a while. That's not the case with the Chozo Ruins. Sure, they're silent and ambient for a while, but as you explore, the ruins almost seem to come to life.
The music changes. The ruins become more welcoming as you begin to know them better. It feels much more alive. Well, atmospherically at least. It still looks like my garden. Dry and, well, forgotten. Probably dead by now. The level is also teeming with Chozo lore. It's pretty interesting to find out more and more about this highly advanced race that we knew so little about in the previous Metroid games, and this adds a whole new layer of depth to the Chozo ruins. There's so many logs to find, and bits of information that reveal more about the Chozo and their culture as a species. Statues, lore, puzzles. It's a Metroid historian's dreamland. The Phazon Mines are a pinnacle moment in Metroid Prime, and they put you to the test against much stronger enemies and much harsher environments.
I adore the Phazon Mines. The music captures the mine's dangerous and creepy feel perfectly. Phazon Mines is also a kind of ultimate test for your abilities. By this point in the game, you're at your most powerful, but the challenge has never been greater. Metroids become much more common, the puzzles get just a little bit more dastardly, and when it comes to boss battles, the Phazon Mines is the home of what is, to me, the most iconic boss battle in all of Metroid Prime, the Omega Pirate. I remember how terrified I was of this behemoth when I played the game as a kid, how I would try and defeat him over and over again but die every time. My first time beating Omega Pirate was, at the time, one of my proudest gaming accomplishments, and I still have a soft spot for this boss battle to this day.
You know, in a lot of ways, the Phazon Mines remind me of the Dark World from Metroid Prime 2. Oh, and speaking of that, number 4 on our list is Metroid Prime 2's Dark World. Yes, the entire Dark World. This one came so close to Phazon Mines. Both of these areas' atmosphere and influence on their respective games are so similar that it was hard to choose a winner between the two. In fact, at one point we decided to make it a tie because we didn't want to choose one area over the other.
The Dark World as a whole is much bigger than the other areas on this list, but it's also its own unique thing. The Dark World is the same by nature no matter what part of it you're in. Each sector is unique in that it reflects the nature of its light world counterpart. counterpart. The murky bog of Torvis is transformed into a poisonous, seething swamp. The harsh desert of Aegon becomes a corrosive wasteland. You get the idea.
But while each sector of the Dark World is somewhat unique from the others, there are many constants that give the Dark World the same feel wherever you go. The atmosphere is poisonous, damaging you whenever you leave the bubbles of light. The enemies in the Dark World are also more challenging than the ones in the Light World, especially the ferocious Ing. The Dark World also features some interesting puzzle mechanics, where something you do in the Dark World will change the state of things in the Light World, allowing you to progress. And lest we forget, the Dark World is home to Prime 2's most stellar boss battles. Now, sure, it may be a bit unfair to compare the number of bosses in the Dark World to other areas, which is why we needed to break the tie with Phazon Mines. We limited ourselves to comparing just one of the Dark World's bosses. And as amazing as the Omega Pirate is, there's one boss the Dark World has that we thought surpassed him. You know, a teeny weeny little kind of forgotten boss, Quadraxis! You know, Josiah, in a lot of ways Quadraxis was my personal version of the Omega Pirate. I was so fascinated with this boss as a kid. It was super hard and challenging, absolutely, but I was just so indulged by it. I just found it to be so fun and epic, so grand. It kind of feels like if Shadow of the Colossus had a sci-fi counterpart, and there's still a place in my heart for Quadraxis to this day.
Yeah, that makes sense. I can totally see why you'd feel that way. Quadraxis is a colossal weapons droid created by the Luminoth to fight against the Ing, which it did, but then, like the rest of their machines, it was corrupted by the Ing and was used against the Luminoth. And Quadraxis is no joke. For starters, it's easily one of the biggest, if not the biggest battle in the entire series. Its arsenal consists of electronic pulses, homing rockets, explosive rounds, and the Annihilator Beam, a weapon which consists of the light beam and the dark beam combined. You still have the dark suit at this point, so you're still vulnerable to the atmosphere of dark aether, and in this boss battle, there's no protective zones, so it's actually quite strategic in a way. You could say it's really where the Ing pulled out their big guns on Samus. Like really, really big guns. Sanctuary Fortress is my personal favorite area in the entire Prime trilogy. It's a soaring technological fortress set on a mountaintop, bustling with electronics and machinery, brimming with activity and life. Abandoned robots roam the empty halls, preying on intruders mercilessly. The rain falls in distorted, jagged lances of static electricity.
If I had to choose a word to describe the Sanctuary Fortress, it would be unique. Really, there's no other area in the Prime trilogy like it. Maybe parts of Elysia and the Space Pirate homeworld from Prime 3 might be a bit reminiscent, but only from a technological standpoint. Sanctuary Fortress, to me, is a true representation of who the Luminoth are as a species.
Throughout the game, you've been traveling through bogs, deserts, and abandoned ruins, but Sanctuary Fortress is quite different. Where nature was the focus in the previous levels, the fortress is bristling with technology, robots, computers, holograms, puzzles, massive structures.
It's also a place where the plot begins to develop more. As we approach the last third of Prime 2, we uncover far more information about the Luminoth's war against the Yang, and we have the true return of Dark Samus, whose boss battle is just awesome, and still feels familiar to the one in Aegon Wastes. But this time, it's on a new level. Both of you are stronger. Both of you have fought before, and now it's time for a rematch.
Finally, we get to talk about Phendrana
Josiah,
Drifts. My
let's take it
darling,
easy.
my
Just-
baby
just-
child,
Josiah,
I
Josiah.
just love you so much. Phendrana Drifts is a gorgeous land of ice and snow, harsh and yet tranquil. The music is easily one of the best tracks in Metroid Prime. I love Phendrana Drifts so much. I think one of my favorite moments here is when you enter the drifts for the first time. This cutscene just does such a wonderful job of setting up the tranquility of this new environment.
But not all of Phendrana Drifts is tranquil. There's a lot of danger hiding beneath the snow. The Space Pirates have set up a massive base here, and there are all sorts of powerful monsters hiding in this area, like the Sheegoths and even the giant rock monster Thardus.
Phendrana Drifts has several different areas, each of which has a very different feel from the others. From a remote and desolate ice chamber, to a murky, half-flooded cavern, to the expansive laboratory that fills the Space Pirate base. Everything in Phendrana feels very balanced. There's a slow but steady rhythm here that leads us through the drifts. Phendrana Drifts is one of the best snow levels I've ever played, and it's almost the best area in the entire Prime trilogy. Almost.
At long last, we reach number 1, Torvis Bog. Oh, Torvus Bog. In my honest opinion, this is the pinnacle of Metroid environments. Its atmosphere is some of the best I've seen or felt. The enemies are extremely memorable, and the environment is extremely unique and fun to traverse. Everything about this location is near perfection in my honest opinion. Well, I mean, that's why it's number 1. Duh.
Torvus Bog is an area with a real personality. It's beautiful, yet dangerous. It's a swamp thriving with perilous enemies, and yet gorgeous locations. Torvus Bog blushes with beauty and tranquility, and yet it's home to some of Prime 2's most monstrous creatures. It can really make you feel claustrophobic in some places, in the narrow hallways and submerged areas that you have to navigate. Sometimes there are enemies waiting right around the corner, like the Sporbs that snatch your Morph Ball.
And the underwater sections are actually really good. Most underwater areas in games are usually hard pressed to keep up with the other stages. They tend to slow the gameplay down too much and bog you down with annoying mechanics. But Torvus Bog handles its underwater sections gracefully, with design that not only stands on par with the other levels of the game, but even exceeds them in atmospheric and exploratory aspects. And don't even get me started on the music.
The submerged temple is just so much fun to explore. I love the theme song that's a remix of Red Brinstar. I love that the area forms a gigantic ring that loops back on itself. I love the puzzles and the underwater exploration. I just love this place.
The puzzles here are really well made as well. You're either zipping from place to place in a Morph Ball cannon, trying to figure out how to unlock a portal to the Dark World, and even exploring the whole circular area is a puzzle somewhat. Oh, and there's the Alpha Blog. He's kinda cool, I guess.
Even the way that Alpha Blog is introduced is interesting. As you descend to the lowest level of the temple, you can look through gaps in the wall to see this gigantic swimming creature. Is that a Blog? It's much bigger than any you've fought so far, but you know somewhere in the back of your mind that you're gonna have to fight this thing. You just know it. You can feel it in your Samus senses. That's a thing, right?
You know, we got an Alpha Splinter, an Alpha Sandiger, an Alpha Blog. It's kind of a shame we didn't get an Alpha Grinchler. Actually, no, I take that back. I'm really happy we didn't get one.
Did you just say Grinchlers?
Uh-oh.
Grinchler! Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to Prime Hillian. He makes fantastic videos, and he co-wrote this video as well as did the first pass edit for it. He's a super cool guy. Special thanks to these legendary bounty hunters who made this video possible through their support on Patreon. Want more Metroid Prime? Check out my retrospective on the entire trilogy. Part 1 is here on the left, and on the right is another countdown that Prime Hillian and I made, the top 5 mini levels in the Metroid Prime trilogy. Until next time, keep your spirits up and your HP high.
Can I say something?